Welcome to episode 112, and today I'm joined by Celeste Norman to discuss how small to medium-sized businesses can go beyond using policies as a tick-a-box exercise and start to look at policies and governance a little bit differently. And Celeste is the founder of Rayne Legal, which is a fractional legal practice specialising in financial services and fund management. And they provide clients across Australia with flexible in-house legal and compliance resourcing to support sustainable business growth. So welcome, Celeste.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen.
I'm super excited because often people associate HR with the policy police. So today we are here to debunk that.
Yeah,
And, in my experience, often business owners hear the word policy and they groan, eye roll, especially startup founders. They don't want to be corporate-y. They don't want to implement red tape. So I'd love to start with your take on why policies are important and how do we keep them fit for purpose?
and this is the trick to it, right? Because policies are your practicing principles for your business. So if you think about how you operate and how you would like to operate and your kind of goals for your business, they're overarching principles. They're not that nitty-gritty that's in an SOP. They're not the step-by-step, roll-by-roll, play-by-play of a function in your business. They're those guiding lights that you as a founder or business owner understand how you want to practice and where you want to get to and how you want to get there. But those often need communicating to other co-founders or managers in your business or external agencies that you have coming in providing services. But as you grow, they help communicate those expectations to staff. And that's a really critical way of having your staff come along for the journey with you. It ignites your culture and makes it a really tangible asset to have in your business. And I think that they're one of those things that you really don't understand the value of them until they're not there or they're not working or they communicate something that's not quite right.
Yeah, that's so true. I see that a lot in the work that we do in HR. And if someone might say, well, this person's behavior isn't meeting what we expect it to be. It's like, well, where are your expectations? Where's your code of conduct?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, so if we don't have something, and I like what you say about overarching principles, some kind of like guardrail almost, then how do we expect people to stay within that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not enough to have, when you have your company set up, you typically have a constitution or you have the replaceable rules that take on the role of a constitution. And those are practicalities for the running of your business, voting, decision-making, authorities, et cetera, et cetera. But that is not in itself how you want to run your business. It's not how you want your culture to be or how you want your staff to be supported or what you want your staff to achieve. And on the other side of that, on the employee side of that, you've got your employment contract. But that's often a document that sets out the legal framework for employment and protects the employee in the worst case scenario. And it is really a last point of call. So when you have your policies that can be HR policies or they can be, depending on your business, they can be an AFSL policy or, an operations management policy or whatever the case may be, it outlines those in practice guardrails, gives you a framework to work towards, gives you a framework for all of your business to work within that's consistent and fair. And a lot of the time, the law will prescribe what should be in that policy as a minimum. And often you'll find that businesses go above and beyond that for the betterment of their culture or for the advantage of staff or, if they're doing something particularly innovative or different in their business, that's a really good place to have that communicated. And there is this stigma around policies being really dry and, just a lump of information all in one document. But it doesn't have to be like that. That's a really old school way of basically having this employee beware. This is how we operate. You're meant to get yourself up to speed. It's over there on the share drive or whatever. It can be a really interactive document that your staff can help shape, particularly your early staff can help shape. And it's about continuous improvement and continuously documenting that improvement in those documents. And someone, when I come into a business and someone hands me a 100-page handbook guide or whatever that all employees are meant to read when they go in there. I know very well your employees aren't reading it, and that's where things slip through the cracks. So the policy conversation is really important. Why you need it and how you can use it is really important.
Yeah, and I think what you said about consistency and fairness is a huge part of it as well. And for me, that's how we build a workplace culture. If you don't have consistency and fairness, then your culture is not going to grow.
Yeah.
And you made me think about a training session that I did with a middle management group on good governance. And, it sparked some really interesting conversation around the importance of consistency when you're a manager. So, as a simple example, if I'm a manager and then I let my team take sick leave, but I don't ask them to apply for leave, and then my manager colleague who runs a different team asks their team members to put in sick leave applications. This causes some big cultural issues, but in worst cases also leads to bullying claims because you have someone saying, well, why am I always asked to put in a leave application?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can share an example of where you've seen governance go beyond that ticker box and, really get traction to help drive a business culture or efficiencies forward.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good example of inconsistency, and the policy says one thing and part of your business goes above and beyond, but the other parts stick to the policy. Workplace flexibility, flexible working, work from home is a really, really current, on point example of where this has really gone wrong for some businesses, in terms of you don't want to document that you're being flexible and you're giving away all these, often that's a really scary thing for businesses to say. We're going to be just doing a free for all, anyone can work from home whenever. But we still want teams to have that organic touch point in the office. So you figure out when you're going to have your 1 day touch point, whatever. I think that is incredibly fraught with danger and is a really current example of having a tick, it complies with the law, tick, it's written down, and then we'll apply it however we think suitable for our staff to give them flexibility. And business owners think they're giving their staff something really great in terms of having that flexibility. But we all know humans don't go well when there are no guardrails.
Yeah.
Like it's just fraught. And we get this comparison anxiety around, but Joan has gone work from home 4 days a week and inconsistently meets the 1 day touch point, and because she's sick or, whatever. And it creates this toxicity of comparison within your business. So it's really important to say you have that policy document, it meets the legal requirements, but as a business, you are committed to offering your staff that flexibility. I would bring your staff along for that journey, put the policy document out for consultation, have some roundtable conversations or stand-up conversations with your staff about what patterns and systemic work from home days they're seeing, what systemic work from the office days they're seeing, and really embed that in your policy, commit to it, because without it written down, you're actually not committing to anything. And there's a risk that the business can then unwind that flexibility, which creates huge problems for staff that need childcare arrangements, that need to travel, that will have excessive spend on travel and those sorts of things. And when it's not in the policy, there's always a risk that the business can unwind those flexible arrangements with no notice. So it leaves your staff on edge. It creates this will they, won't they kind of toxic comparison environment. So there's a lot of ways you can interact with your business staff in terms of having that consultation point. And it could be a monkey survey to say, are you in 3, 2, 1 days a week? What's your ideal day to be in the office? How can we better support you to be traveling into the office? Or do we have enough desks? Do we not have enough desks? Do we have enough facilities for lunchtime? Are our office premises close enough to food that people can purchase, or is it too expensive and you're dragging 6 bags to and from work? All those sorts of human questions can be asked, and it's important that they are asked, because when your human resources are involved in those conversations, they feel ownership over turning up when they said they're going to turn up, and being available, work from home, and having all of the technology and equipment they need to effectively work from home, because they're committing to working from home and you're committing to allowing them to. it's a really good example, I think, of this really big disparity. The companies doing it really well and companies doing it terribly. And there's always improvement that can be done there. One of the other considerations in that respect is employers and businesses often think, oh, if we give employees this say on something pretty critical to the business operating model and bottom line, they're going to just take advantage. In my experience, what I've seen is that doesn't happen. The more empowerment you give your staff and the more you treat your staff like adults and the more you have them in those consultation processes, the more they actually commit to better performing to the expectations set, and they will actually go above and beyond the business expectations of their performance. They'll work more, they'll work harder, and they see the tangible value coming back out the other side. So you have a lot more buy-in.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, we all like to feel like we've been heard, and to just have that opportunity to put your say out can actually just get rid of a lot of passive aggressiveness, gossip, all of those behaviors that kind of sit on the sidelines. Because if someone starts complaining, then their colleagues are more likely to say, but hang on, Celeste, you had an opportunity to have your say.
Exactly.
The company's done the best that they can, versus top down, bang, everyone's now back to the office 3 days a week. So, and I think, like what you said about it being in writing and being in a policy, it gives people comfort that it's there, but also if a new manager walks in, they can't then put their own stamp on it. If they don't believe in working from home, it's like, well, that's too bad, because it is actually in that document. This is what we've committed to as a business.
Exactly. And your policy commitments as a business can be a really great employer brand marketing tool to attract the right staff. Like, the whole point is that you are operating in a certain way and you want to attract people who want you to operate in that certain way. So you present yourself to the market consistently with your practices. So when people start and are employed with you, they go, yeah, great. They're doing exactly what they said. There's no dysfunction around you promised X and you're delivering Y, which can be really problematic when you've got long probation periods, because the employee can self-select too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've talked quite a bit about governance and policies and sustainable practices, but, one of the things I try and always do with this podcast is give practical advice. So for a business owner or a leader listening today, what is one simple, high-impact action that they could take this week to improve governance, compliance, or operational efficiency in their business?
Oh, okay. One tip to create efficiencies around your operations and your governance, I would say, is to sit down, really honestly reflect on how you do business, and not in terms of your client interaction or your customer interaction, about how your staff operate, how your processes operate, and really have an honest conversation with yourself about what you have and each instance of efficiency that can be gained. And that's a front to back review of yourself as well as your business, because a lot of founders, once they get growth and gains in their business, don't turn around and look to, well, we had the matchstick foundation and that did us well, but we've now really got to build that out and we've got to make that really good, and sustain over time, and prevent all of those tests and trials that happen in a grow up phase when you don't have that foundational base. So I would say, spend the time, block out an hour and a half, sit down, go end to end, talk to all the people in your business that you need to talk to, ask them, how does your job work? How do you function? And not from a micromanaging perspective, from I want to understand exactly where we can make things more efficient, and where you can automate, adopt technology, or investigate technological solutions, because huge efficiencies can be gained with your human resources by taking them out of functions that can be automated or functions that can have technology assistance, and using that to then say, well, what do you want to learn? Where do you want to upskill? Where can we teach you to expand their horizons, have them growing with the business at the same time. And gosh, you're creating money for jam, really, because you're gaining time, and time is something that you can't get back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that with the continual rise of AI, it's actually a good lead in, isn't it? And episode 105, I had a chat with Janie and Trevelyan of Intelligence Assist around, bringing AI tools into the workplace. And so I could see how you could put those two things together and say, okay, Celeste, I want to have a look at AI tools and technology in the business that can help you, take me through, your role, and what are your current challenges and blockages. And I think, they'll be really valuable conversations.
And conversations that bring the employee in. So it's not a matter of like, you tell me what you do so I can replace you with AI. It's got to be a very frank conversation. I promise you that we are trying to make this more efficient. We want to take you on our journey with us. We want to take you on the journey with us. And we want to give you additional skills. We want to upskill you. We want you to learn. We want you to be invested in this business as much as we are. And we will do that for you. But I want to understand where your pain points are. I want to understand the irritants in your role. I want to understand where you wake up on a Monday morning and you feel sick to the stomach, or you are exacerbated by coming into work. What is driving that? What's doing that? And often it's not anything to do with the culture. It has a lot to do with, I think I can do my job better. I think I can do things differently, but no one will listen to me. No one's asking me. And I am the expert here. This is my job. And you get, staff to document the SOPs and write this and that, but nothing ever really shifts. So that self-reflection piece is you saying humbly, you are the expert about this function. I want you to teach me where we're getting it wrong. Yeah. And that's an iterative process, and you might not fix everything straight away, but gosh, people have great ideas and they know their function inside and out, and it's the best place to start. Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned before that you run a fractional legal practice. And so it sparked my interest because we also offer fractional HR services with my business, Amplify HR. And it's a term that is gaining more traction in Australia, but I still do have people ask me, what is fractional? So for those who aren't familiar, can you explain a little more about what a fractional legal practice is and how you work with clients? Definitely. Fractional isn't particularly new in its characteristics to the legal industry. Everyone's gone through understanding that there's secondments. So you have lawyers in law firms that second out to private businesses for weeks or months or whatever. So the idea of that fractional characteristic is not necessarily new in the market anywhere, but the use of the term fractional is. And it's this concept where there's a lot more SME businesses that have started up and are growing up, and there's a lot more innovation going on. There's a lot more businesses starting, and you can see by the insolvency rates that a lot of those don't do well. And I think that's because there's no ability to tap into really effective, experienced people without hiring. And, who has 250, 300 grand to throw around for one executive in a startup? You just don't. And in the business world, in my experience, often the innovators are ideas people that need those people behind them that have that really niche experience in marketing, legal, ops, you name it, there's a fractional out there for it. But, and particularly HR, people management is a really important area of business that's fraught with danger, because you don't know what you don't know. And often the rules don't always make sense. You'd think they would, but, it frustrates me even as a lawyer. Sometimes the rules just don't make sense. But it's this notion of, I, as a business owner, as a founder, I have a great idea. I want to bring it to life. And I need great people. But I don't want to pay an external law firm or a marketing agency or a HR agency to handle it for me. I want someone who is willing to talk to me about my business, understand why I want to do things differently, understand how I want to achieve things, talk to the people in my business too, like they're in the business. I want them to be strategically involved. I want them to seem like they have skin in the game. That is a fractional. So you essentially pay for these highly experienced, highly intelligent and practiced people to come in and be your part-time resources for these things. And the fractional, for my practice particularly, often you start out in a project and you offer that expertise in a bit of a test environment, and you deliver the project and it works out really well. And then, 80% of the time people will roll into retainer engagement 1 or 2 days a week, or 1 or 2 days a fortnight, or whatever the cadence is that the client needs. And you'll be that touch point. You stay up to date on everything that's happening in the business. You advise. You do, if doing is not part of your engagement, you can refer people in to do. And the fractional thing is different to secondment in a little bit of in a few ways, but mostly because when I engage as a fractional legal resource for a business, you can tap my network, and you understand once you get this level of experience, your network is broad, and your network of your network is also yours. So there's this fountain of knowledge and experience and that your clients can tap into that is actually invaluable and surpasses the cost of a fractional resource. And it also grows with you. So I don't need to be engaged full time. My experience lends itself to me understanding your business when I step foot in it, and when I talk to you, and when I feel your energy, and when I understand what you're trying to achieve. I know your business, and I'll talk to the next, I'll talk to your staff. I'll understand their functions. I'll be your ears in your business. I'll be boots on the ground. I will help people get things done. I will, manage strategic projects. I will, whatever the engagement is, it can be tight scope or it can be quite a broad BAU scope. But it's basically just to get that expertise in the business at a fraction of the cost of a full-time. And you've got no overheads. You've got one fee, covers it all. If it doesn't cover it all because you've scoped things out, then, you can expand the scope as you go. But it really works for founders. And what I'm seeing in the legal sector is lawyers want to be operating like this, particularly in financial services. The reason I started my business is because I've been in-house and I've been private practice, and there's this chasm between the two. You either are strategically involved or you're providing an advice, and that's it. And clients in the financial services and funds management sector particularly need the legal resource to understand the strategic outcomes and drivers and achievements to be able to provide the advice, but then also the implementation of that advice, which goes back to in-house. So my service covers that all, and I'm finding that that's quite a usual thing in terms of HR fractional, like marketing fractionals, operational fractionals. They understand the business and can implement, but they can also provide that really intricately detailed advice and direction, because ultimately, even in law, there's no right way. In business, it's all about perspective and adaptability and circumstantial and all of that. So you need that strategic understanding to be able to fit the rules to the business.
Yeah, it's really that true partnership, isn't it? It's kind of like you're essentially their outsourced internal lawyer, so that you can really deep dive into the business. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so before we wrap up today, I know we gave you sort of the one like practical tip, but are there any sort of overarching top tips for businesses that are looking to grow and need to be more sustainable with their business practices? Are there things that you would say these are the things to focus on or look for?
Yeah, there's a few things in terms of making sure that you're not diving into things. When you're growing, there's this really big push to just get in and start. Just start. I would recommend, from all of my experience and what I've seen, is that sometimes pressing pause, getting people in a room and having that initial conversation about this is the concept, is it sound? And trusting the people in your business that specialize in those functions, trusting that they know what they're talking about, trusting that they understand the pain points and where the trouble will lie. Because once you start, you get going and you're working towards something, you're spending money, whether that's time with your employees or actually forking out money for specialist areas. That's time you can't get back, and that's money that could be spent better somewhere else. So it's important that you get all of your important, and in some businesses, that's everyone. Get everyone together. Say, as a founder, as a business manager, this is what I want to do. I think it's a good idea. Tell me why it's not. Yeah. Tell me where we're going to fall down. How can we do it better? That is number one. That short spend on having a strategic concept conversation before you start executing will be, 30%, 40% of your planning for your project that you'll be able to take some action items away from, and some, we've got to do this before we do this. The other thing I'd think about, which is probably really timely with recent conversations, is information security and cyber. It doesn't matter what business you are. It doesn't matter what you sell. It doesn't matter what services you provide. If you do not have sound cybersecurity and tech processes, and not just a piece of paper that says this is how we do things, but you actually have active protocols in place that are multi-factor authentication, you do penetration testing for your external systems, you have an external security provider, you have cyber insurance as a last resort. These sorts of practices, you have password practices, et cetera, you could name a number. But if you don't have those in place, you are critically failing a low-hanging fruit item for regulators. And that is, I tell clients all the time, it's a really dumb thing to get pinged on from a regulator when it's, all of your emails have multi-factor authentication that you can just turn on with a button. And you have password protections that, don't write your password down on a post-it note, stick it on the computer. All of those really tech hygiene issues, invaluable to get your business across. Do cyber training. It's a cost that's worthwhile. Do phishing email training. It's a cost worthwhile. Have an external tech provider that can handle all these things for you if you're too small. And there are so many providers that are very cost efficient, and they target the SME market because it is a market that has a potential to be really damaging. You think about your business. If something went wrong from a cyber perspective, who's going to wrangle everyone to get it fixed and to stop the bleed? You're going to be waking up at 2 a.m. when there's something gone wrong to say, trying to get employees on to help fix it. But empowering your staff with these conversations is really important. And staying up to date with market trends, not being competitor focused. I absolutely believe that you should not be competitor focused. It's all about your journey, but understanding trends in the market that impact your business in terms of AI, what's happening there, different investments your business can make in terms of computing or automation or different specializations like the fractional movement. Have your businesses thought about that? It's a really good way to give your business growth a leg up without having that spend of a full-time employee. All of those kind of, the market's constantly moving. And I think it's really important for business owners and founders to stay up, and whether that's subscribing to a newsletter through Instagram or LinkedIn, or, I don't recommend turning on the TV because I think it's all a farce these days, but keeping a finger on the pulse, basically, and seeing how you can integrate any of those movements into your business. And some of them will be throwaway ideas, fine. But, sticking with it and not getting stuck in that rut of, well, this is how we've always done things. This is safe. I think being a business owner, if you're uncomfortable, you're doing great.
Yeah, you've got to have an external view, don't you, as a business owner? Like you've got to actually allocate time of your week to
Yeah.
do that. Because probably no one else in your business that's doing that for you. So
No, that's
all
right.
on you. So
Yeah.
and look, thank you so much for your time today. And just finally, Celeste, what's the best way to get in touch with you or follow your content?
Definitely, thank you. I have a website that's rayne.com.au, or I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and Instagram. I do some articles that help financial services and fund management businesses, particularly with their legal compliance, risk and governance requirements. So just operational tidbits on how to achieve things a little bit easier. But available on all the socials or by mobile or email. But yeah, the website's probably the easiest way to find all that.
Awesome. And we'll put links to that into the show notes as well. And it is Rayne, Rayne. So just if people are using their favourite search engine to look that up, we'll put the links in there. And so for those listening, if you've received value from this episode, I would love it if you could leave a rating or a review over at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so someone else can also find the episodes to help with their business. Episodes are released on Mondays, so click subscribe and you'll be notified of when it's available. And of course, if you have any feedback, questions, or ideas for future episodes, head on over to amplifyhr.com.au or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation. Thank you so much, Celeste. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Karen. It's been a pleasure as well.